came on here to do a quick live stream before I headed to where it is that I intend to go. But while I'm on here, I wanted to say that all of you who came to the live stream yesterday, even though there were not, who actually conversated with me via live stream, the messages that you sent. And if I didn't catch those messages at the time that they were sent, just know that that was not my intent, because I really like to respond to everybody in kind when in fact people respond to me. But I was engrossed in a statement that I was making based upon a question that was asked of me pertaining to law and of course politics, to where I did not see those messages until I got engrossed in what I was saying, or after I had said what it is that I said. So yeah, definitely appreciate that. And I appreciate the few people that subscribe to the channel as well. I know that it's not a channel that many of y'all are accustomed to based upon what it is that I have seen thus far. But on this YouTube channel, for those of you who do not know, I intend to speak about law and politics, because law and politics governs every aspect of every one of our lives to some extent or another. Some of us do not see that to the extent that others do, but nevertheless, that is the reality that we live in. We all have to realize that we as people, the very individuals who elect or appoint through the electoral process certain members of our communities to serve us while in public office, do not have to be subservient to them. Those in civil service are not above us. They can never be above us, because without us, they will never be. However, we will be without them. And that is a message that I just want to convey to you all here on YouTube today, in hopes that that particular message, amongst many others, would marinate within your minds and hearts to the point to where you start conveying the messages that I have conveyed to you to other people. The more that we know, the more people that becomes aware of what we know, I believe once that knowledge is acted upon, that it will make this entire world a better place for everybody. And in order to do that, we may in fact have to put aside those evil-minded people who have grown hell-bent day by day and encroaching upon the very freedoms that we have that are protected by the supreme law of the land. We cannot allow criminal-minded people to overcome the good in many of us. We can't allow people in civil service, to include other civilians, to violate laws that are designed to restrict acts of discrimination against many people. We cannot continue to adhere to these statutory provisions, rules, regulations, ordinances, policies, judicial opinions that disregard outright our liberty to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights. We have to stop saying that we have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms when in fact we do not. That is a civil right. To prove that, if any one of you were to go to any of the 7 articles governing the Constitution for the United States of America, you would realize that there is no clause within any of those 7 articles that speaks about the people's right to keep and bear arms. And for those of you who are unaware, the definition of keep and bear respectively means to either openly carry or conceal carry. So When those in civil service tell us that we need to pay them additional funds in order to receive permits or licenses to carry guns, they are in violation of the supreme law of the land known as the Bill of Rights. The sooner we recognize that, the better off we all would be, from my experience. I know that somebody just came up here, but they left, but I realized this on YouTube and every other social media site, right? I noticed that when I get online and I speak about facts pertaining to law and politics, the very facts of the reality that we live in that affects and applies to us all, many people do not find what I say to be intriguing or as interesting as they do if somebody was, let's say, beating on somebody online. See, it's like people look at the negative aspects of life as if they are more important than the positive aspects, when the negative aspects of life is exactly the type of behavior that sends people through the judicial process and ultimately to federal and or state penal institutions. Whereas the things that I speak about is geared towards educating people to the point to where people need to be educated in order to come out of the mud that people have been stuck in for so many years. It's crazy. I see gun tubers on YouTube that I have subscribed to. They get online shooting guns. They have thousands upon thousands of people subscribing to their channels, or looking at the content of that particular channel. But the moment a brother like me get online and I speak about law and politics, and not only speak about it, but I also quote cases that judges have rendered on behalf of the American people to support the facts of the matter asserted by myself, when those facts are directly associated with law. But many of you, for some reason or another, you do not find that to be interesting. And that is the problem. That is why so many people in civil service, to include other civilians, have been allowed to take advantage of many of us through our incompetence. What does the Bible say for those of you who profess to be Christian? In the book of Hosea, the Bible says, "My people perished for the lack of knowledge." Many of you haven't studied law to the extent that I have. I've studied law for over 20 years. So I'm in a position, more so than many of you, to include you people that went to law school, to speak about the matters that I speak about. I'm not like these lawyers that come on YouTube and they tell y'all something, but yet they don't incorporate the law into what they're telling us. Yeah, they'll tell you about the law where the law says this, but they don't quote it. And from my experience, when you actually look at the law for yourselves, you will see that the law that they claim to be what it is when they spoke, it's not crapped up to exactly what they said it was. That's why it's important to read for yourselves, or to listen to someone such as myself, who has no problem with quoting statutory provisions, judicial precedents, rules, regulations, policies, ordinances. Heck, the paragraphs to the Declaration of Independence, articles to the United States Constitution, amendments to the Bill of Rights, and articles to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I have no problem quoting the law when that portion of law in which I convey to you is directly associated with the matters that I speak about, online or in public. So many of you don't take this stuff seriously. You support Donald Trump because many of you like Donald Trump, primarily because of his celebrity status. You don't really know nothing about the man. Trust me, I felt the same way about Arnold Schwarzenegger, y'all. I was in the same position that many of you are right now back in the day. But then again, in my defense, I can honestly say that I was just, how old was I? 15, 16 years old. Arnold Schwarzenegger was my favorite male actor. He starred in one of my favorite movies, The Terminator. And because of that, I wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to win the election for governor in California. If I was in a position to vote back then, I would have voted for Arnold Schwarzenegger, not because he was the more fit candidate for the job, but only because I liked him as my favorite male actor. That's not a legitimized reason to vote somebody into a position of public trust. Back in the day, I didn't see that. But now, especially after studying law to the extent that I have, I realize the importance that if we're going to vote, we need to vote for people who is qualified for the job. And if you're voting for anybody that has anything to do with the legislative, executive, or judicial branches of our national government or a centralized government of a state, we have to be sure that those individuals are knowledgeable of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to include other documents that were ratified after the fact. Because if they are unwise when it comes to law and politics, we cannot expect those people in civil service to do what's right by us when carrying out their oath made before us under God to protect our civil, constitutional, and human rights from enemies both foreign and domestic. What you all don't realize, for those of you who are what they consider to be anti-Second Amendment, many of you feel that we as civilians shouldn't have firearms. We shouldn't have the same type of armament as those in law enforcement and military do. But what happens when the very people that you dummies elect or appoint to positions of public trust begin to allow that privileged authority to get to their heads to the point to where they start subjecting you all to acts of abuse, neglect, and tyranny? What is your backup plan is a question that I pose to you all who feel that way about those in civil service. What's your backup plan? What are you going to do? You have no arms. You allow those in military installations and police departments to have all the freaking armament in the world that they choose to have for whatever reason they choose to have it, while relinquishing your ability to have the same or similar armament. How is it that many of you claim that we civilians should not have the same arms as police officers or military soldiers because we're not as mature enough to have those arms as they do, according to what many of you believe? But yet we are mature enough to go to these booths to elect through the voting process those same individuals to take specific positions of public trust, who are going to be around the very armament that many of you claim that we civilians should not have. Do you all see the hypocrisy in that statement? The hypocrisy in the way that many of you feel based upon the erroneous beliefs that you have. I'm just sitting up here thinking that none of you people who believe in gun control, for whatever reason you believe in it, you do not have any right to speak on behalf of myself and many others. But I'm going to speak for me. About 3.5 years ago, I was shot by an unknown assailant without provocation outside of my mother's former residence. Unlike many of you, I believe in the right to keep and bear arms because that right was specifically designed for our personal protection, whether we are protecting ourselves against lawless individual citizens or civilians or lawless, tyrannical people in governmental positions. I was shot without provocation. The guy fired 3 shots. I have 5 wounds on my body. The bullet went through my left arm, the skin. It didn't go through the bone. and one of them hit me in the rib cage. Hit a rib, actually. It didn't go through the rib. And the other round did the same to my right arm. Went in and out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wounds that I have currently on my person, on account of some lawless dummy with a gun, utilizing that gun, invoking his Second Amendment liberty in the way that it was not designed to be exercised in. But you know what? I had a firearm on my person to where I was able to utilize it in an act of self-defense to get the dummy away. If I did not have that firearm, when that person was exiting his vehicle, he would have been free to run me down and gun me down. That is why I tell everybody, I don't give a crap if you have a prior felony conviction on some governmental record. I don't care if you have a misdemeanor offense. I don't give a crap if those offenses in which you all were convicted of, whether rightfully or unrightfully, were violent or nonviolent, because the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights specifically says that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't differentiate between what type of charge an individual has been convicted of or not. It doesn't say the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed unless one has been previously convicted of a felony or misdemeanor offense. It doesn't say that. But so many of you civilians, through the emotional state of turmoil that you have found yourselves in after someone has executed these mass shootings in schools, killing children and teachers and people in movie theaters and colleges, you allowed your emotions to cloud your better judgment, which makes all of you criminals, to be honest. Now, just because those in civil service haven't prosecuted you all yet doesn't mean that you're not criminals. A criminal is someone who violates the law. The Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights is the supreme law here in America. When you all seek to have someone penalized for essentially exercising his or her right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment, you become the very felons of society in which you claim those people are. But you have to realize something. If we all have a right to keep and bear arms, and that right is associated with the supreme law of the land, everyone who exercises their right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment are considered law-abiding citizens because they are doing exactly what the law permits them to do. But when many of you criminal-minded people choose to ignore that law, ignore the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights, and impede upon one's liberty to keep and bear arms, that makes you all the criminals, or the more popular term that many of you love using when you describe other people, felons. One cannot be penalized for exercising a fundamental right, such as the right to keep and bear arms. Anyone who impedes upon that freedom have violated the law based upon the definition of infringe as defined in the Black's Law Dictionary. And you all need to be subjected to criminal prosecution, if we're being real. Now, I know that's something that many of you are not accustomed to hearing, because so many people on social media who speak about the issue of keeping and bearing arms do not know enough about the right to tell you what it is that I have just told you, to the extent that I have explained it. I didn't rely upon the police officers of society when I got shot, y'all, because the fact of the matter is, if I didn't have that gun on my person, that I bought from a federal firearms license dealer. For those of you creeps who always talk about, oh, you need to have a gun legally. He didn't buy it legally. He didn't get it legally. What the heck do y'all mean when y'all say that? To be honest, somebody explain that to me. But then again, nobody can explain it because nobody's really here, right? But then again, maybe some of you will come across this live stream after it's been posted once it has ended. And you can explain that to me. Why every time when we talk about guns, and this goes for everybody, whether you are a civilian or civil servant, a law professor in some college, why the heck is the term lawful or legally always added before or after the phrase keep and bear arms or firearms ownership? The only way the possession of a firearm by someone can be considered to be illegal is if that person has stolen that firearm from another individual who is the rightful owner of that particular form of property. That's the only way it can be illegal. If we're looking at it from the perspective of the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights. And the mistake that many of you made, the mistake that many of you have made, the mistake that many of you continue to this very day to make, is when you place these statutory provisions ratified by members of Congress or some dummies within the General Assembly of any state that makes up this nation. When you put executive orders issued by presidents or governors, when you put the opinions from judges and rules and regulations and policies issued by members of the ATF and FBI and any other law enforcement agency for that matter, above the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights or any other right that we have under any of the four documents that I described to you all here in this live stream today. You make those documents obsolete. Many of you believe that we don't have no rights in this country. They're taking our rights. No, they're not taking our rights away. Those documents still exist. The Constitution has been in existence for over 215 years. It's still the same. It hasn't been changed in many years. Well, the Constitution hasn't been, but they definitely have amended it to support their agendas in violation of the Constitution, of course, because they have to get our consent first, y'all. That's how it works, but they leave us out of it. And because so many of us are just busy doing other things, we don't look at the political aspect of this country in which we should be looking at it in. And that is why those in civil service have grown rampant in violating the freedoms that we have under this Constitution that we speak about so much with impunity. But you all put more emphasis on what those in civil service say than you do when it comes to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights itself. And you wonder why many people, to include many of you, currently feel that they're stripping us of our rights in this country. We don't have any rights anymore. That's what you say. It's not what the documents say, though. And then a lot of you all who profess to be Christians, oh, I can't stand y'all people. You always talk about how no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Many of you say that. You claim that although you walk down the valley of the shadow of death, you shall fear no evil. But yet you fear man. Many of you claim that when the Antichrist reveals himself here on earth, that you all are just going to disregard everything the Antichrist say because you are so with God. But yet you all are afraid of the sheriff of the county that you live in. Many of you are afraid of Donald Trump. And you have the nerve to tell me that if the Antichrist is any semblance of what the book of Revelations instructs us that he is going to be, that you are not going to fear the Antichrist, yet you fear other humans. You all are going to take the mark of the beast. Let's just be freaking realistic. Under the present circumstances, you're going to take that mark Because if the Antichrist can do what the Bible says he can do, which man cannot do, oh, you all are going to fear that man to no freaking, no limit. So yeah, you're going to do the bidding of Lucifer, Satan, even though you feel that you're not, but the reality is you are, because you're doing it now. You're doing the bidding of those wicked people in civil service right now as I speak. For those of you who are called to serve as grand jurors, who indict people for essentially exercising their right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment, you are the criminal. You are conspiring with criminals in civil service to disregard the laws designed to protect that specific freedom that we all have. When those of you are called to serve as pettit jurors during criminal trial proceedings, and you convict a man or woman for essentially exercising his or her right to keep and bear arms, you are supporting the criminals in civil service. You are conspiring with them to violate the law designed to protect the right that people have, every one of us, to keep and bear arms. You're the criminals. Let's be realistic. And for those of you who have been convicted, don't listen to these dummies. I speak a lot about these right, well, this particular right that we have. Because the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms is the right designed to protect every other freedom that we have. If we do not have the means to protect what it is we have, that puts us in a precarious position to where what we have can be easily taken by someone who wants what we have. The Bible speaks about a lot of things. Many of us believe that the Bible predicts what is going to happen in the future. But if the Bible predicts certain things and we see these predictions, that puts us in the position to go a different route. See, God gives us a way out, whether we miss the mark in seeing that or not. Some of us are going to get out, such as myself. But there's going to be so many of you who will try to take what it is that I have created for myself and other people. And I'm just simply here to tell you all that that will never happen. I'm not a weak civilian. Many of you look at like people like Donald Trump is tougher than me. That's definitely not the case here. This country has become a country of titles. That's something that I've seen. It's not about righteousness. It's not about unrighteousness anymore. It's about who has the title. Title equals, in many of your views, power. But what is the greatest title here in the United States of America? If any one of you can tell me that answer, I will send you a brand new champion hoodie. If you get it correct. Because if you get it correctly, that means that you are a champion for politics and freedom of knowledge. So shall you be rewarded. But I'm going to leave that question, well, I'm going to leave the answer to that question open. Who has the greatest title, or what is the greatest title that one can have here in the United States of America? That's a question that I'm posing to you all who sees this live stream. You get it right, I will send you a brand new champion hoodie. It might not be winter where you are, but it will become winter at some point to where you can comfortably wear it. But that'll be the giveaway if you answer that question correctly. First person who answers it correctly. I say that because I don't want y'all cheating. For those of you who will. With that being said, I will close this live stream with saying this. There are various judicial decisions out that many of us are unaware of. We are aware of the decisions, but we're not truly aware of the complete context of those particular judicial decisions. For instance, when you look at the case of McDonald versus City of Chicago, The judges in that case did say that the right to keep and bear arms is considered to be a fundamental right. Okay, so knowing that the right to keep and bear arms is a fundamental right, you also have other cases. The Barnett case, to be specific, that says that fundamental rights are outside the purview of citizen and civil servant. Fundamental rights cannot be put up to a vote because they depend on the outcome of no elections. What happens when members of Congress or any other state legislator put a bill on the floor to be voted upon before it becomes law? Oh, I just gave you the answer, didn't I? They put bills on the floor to be voted on. So all these gun control laws that have currently been on the books for, that are currently on the books, they went through the legislative process to be voted upon before they became law. And because that law violates our fundamental right to keep and bear arms, the judges in the Supreme Court, for those of us who look towards their opinions as being the supreme opinion of all opinions, simply says that every act of gun control is unconstitutional. So why are we still here? Of course we're still here because many of you are unfamiliar with those particular judicial decisions, specifically those portions of those particular opinions in which I just cited to you all. It's a crying shame though. But that's what I intend to do on this live stream. And once I get set up, I have the technology, but just haven't had the opportunity to put everything together like many of these other content creators do, to put a lot of information into one single live stream that doesn't exceed, let's say, like right now, 30 minutes. Because I hear that the longer a person speaks, the more it turns you all away from what it is that they're saying. Unless you're Donald Trump, y'all, many of you just listen to him for hours upon hours on end, which is baffling to me, but nevertheless. This YouTube channel of mine is going to be geared towards educating the vast majority of the general population here in America and elsewhere of the freedoms that we have. Because I believe that the more knowledgeable we become in the freedoms that we have, the more of a position that we all will be in to hold those who violate the very laws designed to protect those freedoms accountable. That's the basis for this live stream, or the basis for my YouTube channel. And because I'm doing that, because I'm doing something that many people do not do, and that is bring actual judicial decisions and other statutory provisions to the forefront of your attention, to where you know for a fact that what is going on in this country is either right or it's wrong. But once you figure that out, once you find out the truth, you have to stand on the truth, y'all. You have to stand on it. If we don't stand on the truth, then the knowledge we have of the truth is virtually non-existent. It virtually means nothing. You all have a good day, though, and definitely catch you all on the next one. Hopefully, a lot more people to start joining to where you all can answer questions. Well, you can answer questions and also ask me questions. Like I said, I have a vast knowledge of law, not just pertaining to guns, but law in general, to where many of you may have questions that I can actually give you the answers for. Keep that in mind as you look at these live streams or look at the posts that I have published on this particular social media site. Be safe out there, people. And don't let those in civil service, to include other civilians, make you believe that you don't have a right to protect yourselves through the act of keeping and bearing arms.